Jim, where's the paper?
She had a paper from last week.
You got one?
I got two.
Does Tiffany have one?
I have.
Both?
Yeah.
Well, I got one too.
All right, that's good.
Oh, well.
I got one more if need be.
Councilwoman, the Bible says, and the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the sons of Israel, saying, when a woman gives birth and bears a male child, then she shall be unclean for 7 days, as in the days of her ministration. She shall be unclean. On the 8th day, the flesh of his foreskin shall be circumcised. Then she shall remain in the blood of her purification for 33 days. She shall not touch any consecrated thing, nor enter the sanctuary until the day of her purification are completed. 5.
But if she bears a female child, then she shall be unclean for 2 weeks, as in her menstruation, and she shall remain in the blood of her purification for 66 days.
This is what Rika wanted to know. We talked about the male, right? And how she was to be remain or to stay away from him for how many days?
40.
40 days, right? 40 days for purification, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so why then the girl, she said how many days? No, 66 plus.
Mm-hmm. Plus 2 weeks.
You got to put the 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we talking about? 80 what?
66 and 14.
Lord.
80.
I said 80.
You said 80 what?
No, I didn't. I said 80. I said 80 days. I said, Lord, you were had. So, if that's the case, then I think about it. Why so long? And I'm interested in hearing any wild thoughts, but why so long? Okay, guys, since you can't get it, pull your paper. Your paper has the answers. See it? It says verse 5. You open your paper, I'm going to flip it over. It says the mother's uncleanliness in having a baby girl is doubled. She is counted ceremonially unclean for 2 weeks. Then she has to wait 66 days for her purification rituals. Why? Scripture does not say. But watch this. Perhaps one or more of the following reasons are true. Perhaps to an extra protection to the baby daughter, more time to grow and gain strength since she was considered what?
Weaker vessel.
See it? She's considered a weaker vessel and was being born into a
Harsh, cruel world.
what? Stop right there. Why did I mention that?
Because women were considered less than slaves.
You got it. See what God is doing? He's protecting her. Because she's considered nothing but a meat market. That's what she's considered. She's a slave. You do this, you do that. So she doesn't, those rights, remember these rights didn't come to later on. So she's having to go through this. So here's what God is doing. He's not only giving that baby girl a chance to grow, but he's also giving that mother a chance to heal. Because when she gets healed, she's to do what? Go back to her ways.
Right.
She's immediately go back and do her ways. Do you really think it took 80 days for her to heal? No. So why did you do this? Because not only this, but he's also showing compassion Because here's another child, another girl that has come into this horrible world, and she's going to be treated very harsh. I got watches perhaps to symbolize that the female sex was to be honored, respected, cared for, and looked after in a very special way throughout life. It gives her a chance to do what? For that man now to stop looking at her as a piece of meat, but start looking at her as, this is the woman of your baby's child, of the mother of your baby. You watch this, I want you to see the beauty in her. See how lovely she is. Think about it. She's got tissue now that's got its clothes back down. Because remember, the belly was out. So all these things, she's got a chance now to do whatever she can to start to get herself back in some kind of condition. Start to reduce the weight. Start to look good for the man. It's not like today's time. It wasn't today's time. You know, you have a baby and then you call it baby fat. It was baby, you know, when I had the child, quite naturally I'm not going to look good. Yes, you will, if you respond like they were responding. Remember, he'd already talked about food. And now here he's talking about someone having a child. And not only this person is having a child, but this is this man's wife. And so now what is she going to do? She, in so many words, she's not going to go to the gym and get herself back in some kind of shape. She's going to try to lose this stuff while she's got a chance. She's working on this. Why? Because her mindset is to submit. Understand me now. Her, not like today's time. Her mindset really was to submit, to give herself back to her husband. So that truly was their mindset. So with that in mind, she says, now, girl, I got to get out. I got to work out a little bit. I got to get this down. I don't have to clean. I don't have to do anything, because God made this commandment for the woman to the man. For the woman, but to the man. So that he'll understand, yeah, she may look like she's ready to go at it again. No. You're not to touch her. You're to honor her. You're to give her a chance to recover like she should, because she needs this honor. She just brought your baby girl into this world. Same thing with the male. She just brought your baby male into existence. I got perhaps to stress a double lesson on God's grace and cleanliness, since the baby girl would one day suffer childbirth herself. What do you mean? It's a wake-up call. So what is he doing? He says, what I'm going to do is, first of all, I want that female to see that I am the one God, the one and only God. I am the one that you can serve, that you can trust. I have protected you. I am protecting you. I will continue to protect you. So you got 80 days for this man can consider laying down with you again. That gives you a chance for this man to stop viewing you the wrong way and to start viewing you the right way. Remember, a lot of these marriages were what do you call them? Forced. What do you call them?
Arranged.
Arranged. Oh, remember, a lot of these marriages are arranged. So you got to think on terms of, here's somebody that I'm also not wanting to be with. And so I got to go through this, and I have to say, I don't say anything, I shut up and deal with it. You have countries that still have arranged marriages in existence today. And so why? That's why they race over to the United States, because now I have a choice. If I don't like him, I don't have to be with him. So, but over in those countries, this is what it was based upon finances. I'm going to buy you out. Well, why stop and think about it? Here's some guy that's unattractive, but his people just so happen to have a lot of money. Remember how that works in foreign countries? What does that man have to do in order to take your hand in marriage? A lot of that exists today.
Just makes an arrangement with
it's more than arrangements. What does he have to do? What'd you say?
Give a diary.
I can't hear you.
Give a diary to her.
What is the diary? So you're there. You're there. And that diary would be what? A lot of gold. She has to have something. So if that man was to shame her, divorce her, she could go on with her life. By now she goes back into that vault and she can go now and sell that stuff, thousands of dollars. Or watches it, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars. She can now go sell that, and now she can go on with her life. She is capable now of taking care of herself. Remember, she couldn't go out to get a job. Stop and think about it. She couldn't do what you could do. So she was totally dependent upon that spouse. So see how God's grace and what he was doing, he was looking out for her, watching out for her, protecting her. So guys, watch this. I got whatever the case, the mother and baby daughter were both given 80 days to grow and bond together. No doubt. The last reason listed above has some bearing on the extended time for a baby daughter to be loved and nurtured. God wanted strong families, and he had appointed the mother to be the focus of the love and nurturing within the family. Here's the other reason. She used to do what? She used to do what? She used to nurture the child. So she's going to spend time with this child. This child is going to become a part of her. And watch this. Do I help if the male can afford or have someone? Yes. But if the male can't afford, then look what she's got to go through. She's the one. Remember, they didn't have no infamil. Remember, ain't no infamil running around. Remember, it's totally dependent upon moms to make sure that this baby grows up like they should. Well, with that time too, remember, she becomes emotionally attached to that child. Why? Because with her becoming emotionally attached to that child, she's going to then what? Protect that child. She's going to make sure that child, nothing happens to that child. Watch this, behind what? God's grace. Because I told you, dealing with the law then, she didn't have no rights. So God gave her some rights. God opened the doors where she has grace. Come on, how many times have you seen a young lady get pregnant? She has a child, and then you talk to her, and within a month's time, she's pregnant again? Have you ever seen that? And she's pregnant again, you say, what? You just produced a child, and now you're pregnant again. See what it stops? See what it stops? Nope, you cannot touch her. You gotta let that woman go. Watch this. That that wound close, that wound heal. You gotta let all this take its course. So that, watch this. And she'll love you as well. She'll love you more. She'll appreciate you more. That woman now will appreciate you more. But watch this. Is it not the woman that needs to be more appreciated, or is it the man? Is it the man that needs to appreciate her more? Stop and think about it. It's the male that needs to appreciate her more. So then what takes place is it is an honor situation. So God has now given her some honor. Remember, when the church comes into existence, it was designed to give women liberty. Whether you know it or not, when the church came into existence. So now we see in the Old Testament where God is giving this woman some liberties. Where, guess what? You can heal. By the way, she didn't do anything after that pregnancy. Nothing after that pregnancy. Remember that now. Well, she could at least clean the floor. No, she couldn't. She couldn't do anything. Whatever she did, it was to heal her body. Watch this. Her soul. It was to heal her soul. So everything that God set up according to Leviticus 12. So everything that God set up, He's designed it so that that woman would be A-OK. She'd be okay. And like I said, you all don't have a problem with it because you selected the man you want. They didn't always have that choice. Yes, they did.
So for baby boy, it's 40 days?
40 days. And the baby girl, 80. It's almost like you want a what? Baby girl. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like you want a baby girl. Because you start talking about 80 days. And I don't even want to go too far into this, but you're going to find out later on in scriptures that if the man wanted a boy, and if he didn't get a girl, then he tossed the girl. They got rid of the girl, the baby girl.
They still do that in China
Oh, they do?
right now.
Yeah, birth control.
Huh?
They call it
Well-
birth control.
Oh, that's birth control?
That's what they call
Get
it.
rid of her?
That's what they call it, yeah.
They put them in
Or population control, sorry.
the daughters, the little girls in orphans.
So,
In China, they kill them.
Yeah, but they passed a law that they can't kill them anymore. They can't. They're supposed to put them in orphans.
so guys, watch this. I've given you, after we pulled all that together, look at verse 6. Verse 6 says what? What does verse 6 say?
When the days of the purification are fulfilled, whether for a son or a daughter, she shall bring to the priest a lamb of the first year as a burnt offering, and a young pigeon or a turtle dove as a sin offering.
Why?
The daughter of the
Huh?
It says for sin offering.
Yeah, no, but why? Why, when the days of her purification are completed for a son or for a daughter, she shall bring to the priest at the doorway of the tent of meeting a 1-year-old lamb for burnt offerings and young pigeon or turtle dove for sin offering. What's going on, guys? First of all, he's identifying something. He says a lamb, and he says what, turtle doves or pigeons, right? So what is he identifying?
The young,
No, it's everybody. He's identifying the rich and the poor. He's identifying. So he's letting you know there's no exceptions. That's either the rich or even the poor. There's no exceptions. This is what you do. But why am I having to do a burnt offering? When that child comes into this world, that child comes in with what?
Sin.
You got it. That's why this is so. That's why I said we've got it backwards. A child leaves this world, we're sad. We should be sad when a child comes into this world.
Amen.
A child has come into this world with sin. That child, if the child is living right, or even you, as you're living right, what do we say when that person dies? Well, they went where?
Heaven.
Home. We said they went back.
Uh-huh.
Now they get to go home. What you saying heaven? Well, I don't have a problem with it. So we're saying that they go to heaven. So then we should be what?
Happy.
Rejoicing. We should
Rejoicing.
be rejoicing. We shouldn't be doing come on, let's do this. Let's do the memorial, and then let's, we got to hear this, and you got folks wiping their face and all that stuff, when really it should be a happy moment. That person got to get out of this corrupt world. They
Amen.
finally got to leave this garbage. Well, your Bible made it clear as a bell. She is to do a burnt offering. Don't you understand? She's to present it before the priest. Why do you need to present it before the priest? Because she realizes, I just brought sin into the home. See that? And so it's got to be cleansed. It's not a happy event. So now pull your paper, look on the back. This is what I was trying to show you. She was cleansed by what? Somebody can read it.
She was cleansed by approaching God through the sacrifice of the burnt offering. Remember, this was the sacrifice that would make atonement for her. that would satisfy God's holiness and justice against sin. Through the atoning sacrifice, God reconciled the unclean person to himself, accepted the person. She was cleansed by approaching God through the sacrifice of the sin offering. This was the sacrifice that bought forgiveness of sins. The Bible never says that childbirth is a sin, but all who bear children are sinners, just as we all are. Therefore, the mother who bore a child was to offer the sacrifice for sins because of her uncleanness. She had just brought a child into a sinful world and had passed down the sinful nature to her child.
See what's going on? Now her nature, sinful nature has also been transferred. Now, I've made you miss a spot, so go back up. Proverbs 22 says what? Train a child
Train a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it.
Who's going to work with training this child?
Father,
Who's going to work with training this child?
mother.
Mother. Stop to think about it. She's going to spend her time. She's going to work with this child now. She's got to also bring to this child's attention the lifestyle, the conditioning of this world. She's got to bring it to that child's attention. That male has liberties. Remember this. It's the daughter that's got to learn how to submit. It's the daughter that's got to learn how, well, mom, dad thinks that Joey over here would be my best match. Not necessarily Joey's your best match, but Joey's mom and daddy can certainly take care or pay off, give a great payoff. So then we can go ahead and we'll go ahead and pass the child or the young lady over. Hear me. The young lady is, what, 21, 22 years old. So now we can pass her over.
Mm-mm.
Come on. Come on. That's what I want you to see. The young lady is around what?
12, 13.
12 or 13 years old.
Yep.
You got it. But what if this is an older man? Do you see what I'm saying? Remember, when Mary betrothed Joseph, Joseph was an old man.
Mm.
Remember that now. Joseph was an old man when he went out to marry. Do we know if it was an arranged marriage? We don't know. But we do know that Joseph was an older man when he married Mary. So now you got a kid meeting an old man. Stop and think about it. Then she has no choice but to grow up and watch us with the way he is teaching her. She grows up with this. So the mother's got plenty of work within a short period of time to get this daughter to understand what it means to submit and don't get killed.
Mm.
Don't lose your life. See what I'm saying? You see how serious this is? So now with this going on, now God says, so what we're going to do now is a purification ceremony where, guess what? It's more to who? The mother than it is to the child. I wonder why. Has the child produced a sin?
Mm-mm.
The child came into sin, but the child hasn't produced a sin, and when the child produces a sin, the child is a child held responsible. No, the sins fall upon the parents until they reach an age of understanding. See what I'm saying? So all of this going on, your Proverbs 22:6 makes sense now. Train up a child. Watch this. What do we do? I know about you all, but I got 20-year-olds sitting in my house. If you stop, you know what I'm saying? Stop and think about it. When in reality, stop and think about it. These children were now reached a certain age and they were out and about. They're already out of their parents' homes. They're already about doing what they should be doing. Today's generation, we wonder why that child is so messed up in the head. because that child has been given everything. Now they don't know how to deal with reality. Stop and think about it. I thought about this, Tiffany. I got a dog sitting in the house that won't go outside. But you hear what I'm saying? He'll go outside when I walk him. He'll go outside to use the restroom. Then then he's running back in, right, Renee? Then he's running back in. What are you saying? He was trained. This is how he was trained. So now, wait a minute, he doesn't know any better. He says, don't you understand, my fun is in the house. He didn't know no better. So guess what, when I finally take him out, he enjoys it if I'm with him. See what I'm saying? Think about it, here's a child, so you can train a child. I don't understand why they did what they did. Because you didn't train them. That's why they're doing what they're doing. Because they weren't trained. When God gave you that chance when they were young to put that strap to their behinds, you didn't do it. Now they get a certain age, and now they want to say things back to you. What happened? Because you didn't train that child like they wanted to do. Like they should have been trained. And so now what you got? What you got is a mess on your hands, or what you got is for that child, it's time for you to move on. Let me put some money in your hand. It's time for you to move on. Why? Because, see, you want to be a man. You want to be a woman. So since this is what you want to be, let me give you your keys. And this is yours. You want to blow it? Then blow it. I'm talking about the prodigal child. Stop and think about it. It was the same way with the prodigal child. Did he not come to his father and tell him to give me what's mine? And then the father, and I'm sure it was a nice piece of change that the father gave him. So he went out and bought prostitutes like some kid would do that hasn't been trained. They would do stupid stuff like this. Next thing you know, they're driving a nice car, and you try to figure out, wait a minute, what did you do with your money? Well, I bought a car. What about your place to stay? Huh? Well, I'm going to stay here. No. You're not going to stay here. See what I'm saying? But it's our fault for not getting them to understand their priorities. Get your priorities straight. Get your place. Get you some food in your table. And then buy you a clunker, if that's the case, just so that you can get around. But until you can do better, until you can really understand what life is about. So now watch this. Your Bible says what? And what really the 7 says what? Then he shall what?
Then he shall offer him before the Lord and make atonement for her, and she shall be cleansed from the flow of her blood. This is the law for her who bears a child, whether male or female.
And then he says she shall be cleansed from the flow of. Look how important the priest is. Do you see this? That's how important that priest was. I told you that priest wasn't just like we call preachers today. That priest has a great responsibility. Now you're going to tamper with, here's somebody, and the flow of her blood is going to stop because you've been now presented before the priest. The priest now has declared, he's got to declare that you're okay. He's got to do something to declare that you're no longer bleeding. There's a lot of things that he's got to do before he declares you now uncleansed. And you either bring in turtle doves, pigeons, or lambs. One of that, but one of those you're going to bring, because now we're in a purification process. God wants them to recognize that how important that priest is. He wants them to see that that is once again God's man. I told you, when the food was given out, or the meat was given out, it was the best was given to the priest. What are you doing? Why are you giving this? Because the priest has a great and grave responsibility that priest has got to do. So here's this priest being held accountable is what he's saying. And so now he's going to check to make sure that she's okay. It also says, since when she's okay, then guess what? Now I can go ahead and declare to who? To who? We know to God, but to who? Husband. Now your husband can take you back. Now he can take you back. Now he can lay with you again. I told you she was like a slave. Whether we like it or not, she was like a slave. And God is protecting her. He's still protecting that woman. So watch this. 8 says what?
But if she cannot afford a lamb, then she shall take 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, one for a burnt offering and the other for a sin offering. And the priest shall make atonement for her when she will be clean.
So read the last paragraph on your paper.
A poor mother was protected by God's mercy. Note the concession made for the poor by God. If a mother cannot afford a lamb, she could offer the sacrifice of 2 pigeons, one for the burnt offering and the other for sin offering. Note the glorious mercy of God. She was given the atonement, reconciliation with God, and the forgiveness of sin just as readily as the more advantaged mother.
How important was it then to get back? And that's why I said we missed this. But how important is it to have a relationship with God? Stop and think about it. That's what you're doing. See how important it was to have that relationship back with God again. Now I can go and talk to my God who has had mercy on me, who is protecting me. Wanted you to see that. So now, too bad Rico missed it because he wanted to find out, but maybe Carla, we can just tell him, you weren't around too, and I explained the 80 days, what was going on. And all it was that he was protecting her. And I'll let Rico know. But guys, it's amazing this doesn't stop. Because now, that's why you've got 13. That's why I ran right into it. Because he says what? In 13 he says what? Then the Lord spoke. Wait a minute. What are you doing? What is the writer doing? He's making it sure it's not Moses that's speaking. It's God. So if you got any problems, you want to challenge anything, then you challenge God. Because it is now the Lord speaking to Moses and to who?
Aaron.
Wait a minute. He's speaking to Moses and to Aaron. This time he's speaking with who? Isn't that something? And this time now he's speaking with both of them. For the mother thing, it was to Moses. Now he's speaking to both of them. Why? Because does not that priest have a responsibility? He's bringing it to Aaron's attention. Here's what I want you to do. You do need to understand. So let me bring it to your attention. I want you to understand. So then watch this. He says, and watch how this opens up. Guys, this goes in bunches for a reason. He says, what? Whose time is it? Tues says what?
When a man has on the skin of his body swollen, a scab, or a bright spot, and it becomes on the skin of his body like a leprous sore, then he shall be brought to Aaron, the priest, or to one of his sons, the priest.
So guys, pull your paper. Something's going on. Now we're talking about a disease, right? Who's going to watch over them?
The priests.
Who's going to watch over the priest then?
God.
God. Stop and think about it. So here's God once again doing what? Protecting his people. You've come out of the desert. Well, watch this. Read what I've gotten and you'll see it. Disease is a
Very serious problem. Go ahead.
A contagious disease is especially a problem, for it can spread like wildfire and infect thousands upon thousands of people. AIDS and herpes are just 2 examples in this day and time.
Remember? Didn't know what was going on. They couldn't figure out what was going on with AIDS. They were doing everything they could to check it. Then they finally came up and said it was AIDS. By then, how many people were affected? And watch this. What the sad part is that they had AIDS. The good part of it was that it did affect those that had money. So since it affected those that had money, now they want to reach out and see if they can resolve this disease. If it had been poor folks only receiving this disease, they wouldn't have given second thoughts about it, shoved it up under the carpet, and went on about their business. But here we got an issue now. We're talking about a disease, right? Remember, these people didn't go from houses to houses. They're in what? Tents. You got to see this. They're in tents. Remember, that means you talk about over 1 million people that are seeing one another daily. You're around, if you ain't nowhere, well, so-and-so's in the next state. Everybody is in the same location. Can you imagine what would happen if a disease broke out and everybody's in the same location? It would it would do what? It would spread, it would do what to that generation of people? Wipe them out. There would be no more Israel. Stop and think about it. There would be no more God's chosen people, because they're all in one big huddle, if I could call that. One big huddle anyway. And so here's the thing. The priests are going to examine this. But if it's a contagious disease, then why don't the priests catch the disease? Stop and think about it. If it's a contagious disease, when they catch the disease too, what are you doing, God? Letting you know they're my men. Letting you know I've called them. They're not going to catch any diseases because I am watching over my men. And once again, it is a message sent out, the importance of a priest. How important it was to understand that these are God-sent men. So then watch this. Then your Bible says what?
You shall examine the sore on the skin of the body, and if the hair of the sore has turned white, and the sore appears to be deeper than the skin of his body, it is leprosy. Then the priest shall examine it and pronounce it unclean.
Keep going.
But if the bright spot is white on the skin of his body, and does not appear to be deeper than the skin, and his hair has not turned white, then the priest shall isolate the one who has the sore 7 days. And the priest shall examine him on the 7th day, and indeed, if the sore appears to be as it was, and the sore has not spread on the skin, then the priest shall isolate him another 7 days. Then the priest shall examine him again on the 7th day, and indeed, if the sore has faded and the sore has not spread on the skin, the priest shall pronounce him clean. It is only a scab, and he shall wash his clothes and be clean. But if
Watch this now, guys. Pull your paper. Let's go find out a little bit about what's going on. I've got in the words of who was reading?
In the words of the expositors, Bible commentary, it is hard for moderns to imagine the severity of ancient epidemics. The Black Death, bubonic plague, killed 250,000 of Europe's people in about 1350. Whole villages would move away from those stricken with disease.
Jeez.
Quarantine was the only available relief. The ancient world had no medicine or drugs.
The ancient world didn't have any cures.
None whatsoever to heal, control, or prevent disease from spreading. The only weapon they had to combat disease was to isolate or quarantine the person. This was the reason God gave this law, to control leprosy and infectious skin diseases.
Huh.
The Hebrew word for leprosy means more than just leprosy as most people think of it. This is clear even in this chapter. Note Leviticus 13:47-59, where mildew, fungus, or some kind of rot is discussed. The same Hebrew word is used, tasarai. The Hebrew word obviously refers to leprosy and all other infectious, contagious skin diseases such as skin rashes, skin blemishes, fevers, measles, boils, scarlet fever, little curmil, smallpox, psoriasis, sores of all kinds. If a person had any skin disease whatsoever, he was counted unclean. He was separated and isolated from all other persons until the symptom had healed. There was a general examination of any swelling, rash, or bright spot that appeared on the flesh. A person had to be brought into the high priest, Leviticus 13.
Can you imagine? You in the midst. It's almost like the idea of when we have a disaster and how people are all in the same location, and all you have to do is have one disease get out. And it's amazing how sensitive the body is. Something so tiny that you can't see goes into the body and it will destroy it. Isn't it amazing what's going on? Something you don't realize, and it's called sin, goes into our lives, and what does it do? Separate us from God. He's trying to show them something that's going on. By the way, when we go back up to the text, you're going to see something. He says, then when a man had, I'm back at 2, when a man had on the skin of his body a swelling or a scab or a bright spot, it became infectious of leprosy on the skin of his body, when he shall be brought to Aaron the priest or to one of his sons, the priest. How will the person know something's wrong? Well, they couldn't see. It affected them so bad that they couldn't get around. What do you mean? Now you got a walking problem. Something the Bible says that they were brought to them. So that means they couldn't walk. So you got a situation on your hands that's pretty bad. Here's my point. Then what do? I'm sure you had to keep your distance because you didn't know if this sin was contagious or not. And you're bringing them to the high priest, who the high priests are going to examine them. So the high priests are going to touch the areas. I'm telling you, they should have received the leprosy. They should have received whatever it was. Why come they didn't do it? They waited for Jesus, when you go back and study the text. And when he healed a leper, they waited for him to fall dead, or they waited for him to turn white as snow as they would, but it did not happen. It has not happened here either with the priests. What are you saying? They're then acting as the mediators, your priests. So these priests now are doing what Christ did. And so now they're examining. But watch this. He uses a number all the time when it comes to cleansing. He says, how many days?
7.
Isn't that something? So 7 is a symbol of completion. And that's where we got it from. That's where your 7 comes in. Because God told him, 7 days, let them come back. Guess what? You check again. Guess what? They still got it. They still need to go back. They're quarantined. Wait another 7 days. Wait another 7 days. Sometimes that 7 days would produce death. They don't have no medicine. They'll have nothing to heal them with. Stop and think about it. So sometimes they don't survive. This is what we don't get. What a horrible death. You picked up a disease, and really they don't too much know what it is. All they know is you got a skin rash, you got baldness. We know something going on. Now leprosy, yeah, we can see it because it starts to rot the skin or rot the body. So wait a minute. Okay, other than that, what in the world's going on with this person? I don't know. Let the priest check him. Does he have some medicine? No. Okay, so then what do? He's quarantined, and hopefully this will go away. If it doesn't, then the person dies. Still feel like you want to be born back then? Stop and think about it. Stop and think about it. There's no medicine for this. So he's bringing something to our attention of what and how to take care of what's going on with this. So all the way through 8, this is what he's doing. He's bringing it to our attention to let us know that it is the priest that they're going to bring that individual to. He's acknowledging, watch this, the power that he's given to the priest. He's making them to understand, I am protecting you. Because what I'm going to do is you're going to bring it to the priest. I am going to protect you. God is constantly protecting them because remember, they're headed for a land that they didn't purchase. And guess what? You're going to get around some people. You're going to get around some diseases, whether you know it or not. Remember, you're going into a heathen nation. A whole lot of stuff takes place in a heathen nation that we would consider detestable. They say to the heathen nation, so what's wrong with it? I said, even in today's world, stop and think about it, these sexual relationships that are going on and what husbands and wives are doing in it. Now, stop and think about it. So you're doing stuff that can produce some kind of disease and you're not even aware of it. But this is why God designed it, and he made it for pleasure, but he also made it more so for what? Procreation. Remember, this is what this was about, to replenish the face of the earth. But it was also for pleasure. It's just like those heathens, the same way it is with us today, have went to the extreme, exploring on how to do things that really you shouldn't be doing, but exploring on things because they're bored. And so what we'll do is we'll even inject things into our bodies for pleasure. Stop and think about it. So these things are there. So now watch this. Then he says what? 9. We're at 9.
When the leprous sore is on the person, then he shall be brought to the priest. And the priest shall examine him, and indeed, if the swelling on the skin is white, and it has turned the hair white, and there is a spot of brown flesh in the swelling, it is an old leprosy on the skin of his body. The priest shall pronounce it unclean, and shall not isolate him, for he is unclean. But how come they don't isolate him?
What?
It says shall not.
What you got? 17? You went what?
11.
11.
Says, he shall not isolate him, for he is unclean.
So he shall not
If he's got-
isolate him, for he is unclean. Well, watch this.
got
He is what?
chronic-
Your Bible says what?
He's got chronic leprosy.
It's a what?
Chronic leprosy.
Chronic leprosy. What's the terminology for what chronic means?
Full-blown terminal, I
It's
guess.
what?
It's not going to go away.
You right.
It's gonna stay with you.
What do? It's not going to go away. So what do?
But you don't want him to go walking among the people.
He's not going to walk into people, but he's no longer in quarantine. So what's going to happen? He goes back home to work. I told you, we're talking about somebody that can't get around. You still trying to put this person where they can walk, move, and get around. This person can't walk and can't get around. So then who takes the person back? I said it earlier. What happens with a lot of their diseases? You don't have medicine, so what happens to the person? They die. So why then are we trying to, what you gonna do, quarantine a dead man? Stop and think about it. You've got so many days, months left in your life. So why we need to quarantine you? Even with hospice, I think that's it. Even with hospice, what do?
Just staying until you-
Huh?
They just make you comfortable.
No, but what does hospice do? How long can you stay in hospice?
until you pass away.
No, you don't. No, you don't either. How long you stay in hospice? In that hospital?
Oh, you saying hospice or hospital?
No.
Hospice.
Hospice.
Hospice is where you go to your house.
Isn't the person that?
Right. They allow you to sit in that hospital for a little while. When it's declared that it is chronic, they do what?
Send you home.
Send you home. Now, I'll send you somebody to help you, but they sit there and try to make it as comfortable for you as you can. But you're gone. Yes.
Some people stay
They
in
have to
hospice.
have part of hospice. I
No,
was-
they send the hospice to your house.
Huh?
They send the hospice to your house.
Yeah, but I'm saying still they go where? Home.
Your home.
So this is where these people are. You still send them home. It's done now. When much is, well, there's nothing to do. They declare it. I said, I remember my uncle. They said, guess what, we're going to have to send him home. I said, why? But he died before they sent him home. But the bottom line was, hey, there's nothing, he's dead. He's gone. Now we can make his death as comfortable for him as possible. We'll keep shooting in, whatever y'all call it, this drug, morphine. We'll keep shooting the morphine in him so he doesn't feel anything. But really, that person's gone. That person's dead now. And shame on anybody that wants to hold that person from leaving this world. Well, I want to make them come. I want to give them food, give them this. They're gone. They don't feel anything anyway because they're shot up with morphine. And so now they're gonna just die on out. There's nothing you can do. And this is what he's talking about. They unclean. Yep. They dead. Send them on back to the kid. You can pick the cart up because that's what they would be on. You can pick the cart up and you can walk them on back. Now, you've got some people that would be so sad because the priest has declared they're done. There's nothing you can do, they're done. So the priest has finally declared it. Watch this. It can't be said until the priest declare it. But what about the doctor? This is what I'm trying to get you to see. Where is the doctor in this? There aren't any doctors. Your priest is your doctor. So now he's wearing another hat. He's got another hat that he's wearing because he's your doctor. I've been told only a doctor can declare that person dead. Am I right, Steve?
Yes.
That's what I've been told. Only a doctor can declare. You can't say, well, no, I'm looking at them, it ain't dead. The doctor, they can't release them until that doctor says,
Right, because it has to be in writing, it has to have some confirmation to it. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it's,
But if you're at home and you're under hospice care, the hospice pronounced you dead.
they will be the doctor in that case.
so
It-
it's still a doctor. That nurse cannot declare. I'm telling you, that nurse cannot declare you dead.
They still would have to bring a proof.
That doctor still got to declare it because he's got to sign off. Am I right, Steve?
He has to do the final.
Yeah, he has to do the final. And Sister Cooker, she tell you, you can't, no nurse can say you're dead. I don't care if you are dead. The nurse can't declare you dead. There has to be a doctor that signs off and says, because sometimes what happens or what was happening, somebody wasn't dead. And you took them to the morgue. And they weren't dead yet. So you buried them alive. See what I'm saying? So you actually buried them alive. So it was producing lawsuits. When they found out, wait a minute, my cousin was still alive. And then you went on and put him to the morgue. And so then he suffocated or froze to death. He couldn't say anything. Let me see if I can help you. Heard of brain dead?
Of course.
But they're not dead, but they're brain dead. And so a lot of times you don't realize it. Well, they're dead, but they're just only brain dead. That body hasn't died yet.
Still feeding.
Right. So, and that's why they say, well, the liver is finally that's no longer functioning. The kidneys is now no longer functioning. What are you doing? The doctor's saying each one of his organ or her organs are finally no longer functioning. So they got to make sure all of those organs are no longer functioning. When they take you off that respirator, yeah, when they take that off of you, now they're saying, well, okay, we're watching. Yep, that is dying. Yep, that is going. Yep, that's. So now they say we can officially. I'm not saying they're not dead. I'm just saying it's got to be announced dead. They got to be. It's got to be by the medical doctor that declares they're dead. That's the responsibility of this priest. He is to declare that they are dead. That's what this priest is doing. That's why I said, where's the doctor? That's why I said, look at the responsibility of a priest. And then I said, who wants to be really a priest? Look at all of this that's going on. You thought all he was doing was keeping the fire going. Right? Think about it. Okay? And living large. When he's got plenty of work to do. He's got a lot of stuff that he has to work with. So then 12 says, and if the leprosy what breaks out?
All over the skin, and the leprosy covers all the skin of the one who has the sore, from his head to his foot, wherever the priest looks. Then the priest shall consider, and indeed, if the leprosy has covered all his body, he shall pronounce him clean who has the sore. It has all turned white, he is clean.
So then he's saying, what's going on? You said, but doesn't leprosy become white? No, what he's trying to get you to see is, I just told you when you ran back, I told you what leprosy would do. Didn't I tell you? Go back over your paper, the Hebrew word for leprosy. Remember? I told you these are some of the things that would take place in leprosy. See it? See it down there? Yeah. Then skin rashes, skin blemishes. See it? Yeah, see? But watch this. Now that this has left the body, it leaves a ashy look. That's what we're talking about. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Really, that's what we're talking about. It leaves an ashy, a scabs. Yes, you know what I'm talking about. It leaves that now. So then the priest, watch this, but the priest declares it. Why is it that the priest then declares this? And it's amazing because watch this, just what we said, no, they still got leprosy. We don't know. God has given that priest the insight to be able to determine whether or not this leprosy has cleansed this person. Now he's got, maybe I might be going ahead of time, but now that person can go wash.
Because the body's healing itself.
Yes, and he can go back into the community now because he's healing. But not even healing, he's healed. Now it's just a matter of, like a scab that's got to come off you, you know. So you say, but no, he looks bad. Well, it's got to eventually peel itself off. But the bottom line is, it has dried up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It has dried up now, so that person can go on. You got it. Because remember, I told you, you're not. Remember, it's something that's rottening the skin. So you got to think that's pulse. You know what I'm talking about? Job is a good example when Job had, believe it or not, pulse leprosy. So Job had these skin diseases that God had allowed Satan to put on him. But now this guy has dried up. Yes.
That's how when you get like if you're riding a motorcycle and you fall and your skin
Right.
peels up.
That's right.
It dries up first and then that dry up part
skin upon you. You're right, that's it. That's a good example. So watch this. He goes on, so he's mentioned that.
But when the rough flesh appears on him, it shall be unclean. And
But whenever what?
with a rough,
Did you see it? Now we was talking about that. See, that's what we're talking about, Tiffany. So it didn't dry. It's raw. It's still wet. It's still pulsing. Yeah, there you go, pulsing. It's still, you can see it's still there. Something's wrong. He's still not, he didn't heal. So now go on.
and the priest shall examine the raw flesh and pronounce him to be unclean. For the raw flesh is unclean, it is leprosy. Or if the raw flesh changes and turns white again, he shall come to the priest, and the priest shall examine him, and indeed, if the sore has turned white, then the priest shall pronounce him clean. Who has the sore, he is clean.
So now he's what?
He's clean.
Now he's clean?
So it is the
So it gets-
it's raw flesh.
Yeah.
So if it gets red, then it's not. But if it's
It's not
getting
done.
white,
It's got to turn white.
it's clean.
Isn't that amazing? He's got to give a
You would think the opposite.
Well, a lot of times you don't realize it too. When you get down to your skin, it's white. Stop and think about it.
Oh,
Huh?
not the skin of the bone.
Yeah, it's white. But in this case, it has dried up. And so since it's dried up, then it's still white, but it has dried up. So now the priest can say, now I can declare you cleansed. Can you imagine? I told you, we don't understand it because we're not in those conditions, so we don't see it. But can you imagine millions of people? And can you imagine, here's somebody, oh Lord, oh my God, here's someone that's got this disease. Can you imagine how it would have shook the community up? Can you imagine, here's the priest, that if he ain't living right, Lord, have mercy. Can you stop and think about it? Because he's got to make all these atonements. Remember, we read all the atonements. He's got to make all those atonements, and every last one of those atonements have to be done exactly like God has prescribed them. So this priest not only performs, but this priest must remember. He must remember everything that needs to be done. All what sacrifices need to be made. He needs to be, what somebody said when they wrote them down, yeah, God did, he wrote them in their hearts. So now they know. They got it. So can you imagine Moses is calling a class every day. You got to remember this. You got to remember this. You got to remember this. Now, so that when, because the reality is this is going to happen now. Now these things are going to happen. Because anytime you're around a bunch of people, you'd be surprised the disease that someone has that you think, no, that person doesn't have disease. It's just like I was sharing with someone earlier today. We have a tendency, you look at the external of a person, you say, oh, that person's clean. And then you sit around and label that person. Now you got AIDS, herpes, gonorrhea, you name it. But the person was so clean. And the person, I know the person bathed. What happened? There's a disease, and you've heard of this called dormant. So, what do you mean? With the female, the male, it's very obvious for the male because it gets a sensation, a burning sensation. So it's automatic for him. But that female, they can sit up in there for months and for years and cause, you see what I'm saying? Before she realizes it. And now, watch this, and she didn't have a relationship with, especially with others. Can you imagine how she's traveled, made that travel everywhere? So it's everywhere, and that's why the doctor or at your clinic will ask you, let me ask you something. How many relationships have you had? Who have you laid with? And you're too embarrassed, so you don't want to come clean. But you've just passed on a disease. Then, that person that finally, that's on their deathbed finds out that you did it, then there's a lawsuit. So I'm saying, because now it is believed you did it intentionally. Remember those lawsuits coming out left and right? I don't know if y'all remember that. Gave me AIDS, this person gave me AIDS. And it was going everywhere. Remember that?
This against the law for someone that have HIV or AIDS and lay with someone.
Yes.
Unprotected sex, it is against the law.
So it is.
To not-
That's what
to
I
not
said. Remember
notify.
that young lady wrote on the mirror when she got through with that gentleman. She wrote on the mirror. She now you have it too. Welcome to the AIDS club. You remember that? It was many years ago. This was real. This wasn't no joke. This was real. I said, and I told you, I don't know if I told you this, I used to have a friend that worked with me, and she said that her girlfriend had what's the highest herpes, whatever it is, the 3rd degree or 4th degree or whatever it is, of herpes, and to the point that she knows it would produce death. And so she was so angry with men because somebody passes on to her. So she was so angry with them, and she said that her and her friends were walking in the mall, and these guys were talking about, hey, baby, hey, you know, how guys do. And she said that her friends said, won't you put your mouth where you, you know how you say it, put up or shut up. And the guy says, well, what are you talking about? She says, well, if you want to get busy, then let's go get busy. You hear me? She doesn't care. But watch this. She said that her friend went, meaning her, she said she went into the store. She heard, but she thought she was just teasing. She said, but so when she came out of the store looking for, while she was in the store, she was looking for a friend. She couldn't find her friend anywhere. So she, you don't think too much of it. She just probably roaming around somewhere. So she says, now, time is marching. And, she's like, wait a minute, really, where is my friend? So she calls on the cell phone. She doesn't pick the cell phone up. So now she's really worried. So she goes to the security, they have the security so she goes over there and they get on the little scooter, whatever you call it. That little thing that you drive around on. So they get on there and tell her, if you don't mind, you can get on it because the store is getting ready to close now. So they're looking for her. They cannot find her anywhere. So they've all got, they put the blast out on the announcements and everything. Can't find her. So anyway, the security guard or whatever it is. So now they're getting ready to go in and report it as somebody missing. But on their way back, they heard some noise in the driveway. What do you call it? But back in the back where it was dark. And so the officer said, "Did you hear that?" And so he says, "Well, they pull the thing over. He gets his little flashlight, and he finally goes and he throws the light, and sure enough, she was doing it with somebody on the car." Now, the gentleman is embarrassed. He reaches to put all his clothes on because he's running, and she's laughing. And the officer doesn't know why she's laughing, but she's laughing as she's getting dressed. She's laughing. Watch this. They didn't say anything because the friend knows it. They didn't say anything. She says, so when she got to where they finally got in the car, she says, "Girl, what was wrong with you? The nerve of you to do something so that's stupid." She says, "No, he wanted it. I gave it to him." Welcome to herpes. She said, "Wait till he get home and find out. Guess what? He got something that I can't get rid of. He can't get rid of it either." She said, "And I'm gonna pass it on to anybody else that wants it." So this is anger that's causing this foolishness. Now, I'm saying this because, guys, you got to stop and think about something too. We're talking about a community. You got to stop and think about it. Not everybody obeyed God. You got to stop and think about it. There was something that took place in the first place. Didn't they throw in gold, and up came this golden calf? What events were they having? What events were they having?
Parties.
While they were down there. What?
Parties. Party.
Yeah, there was party. What were they having? Cut all that out.
So
Orgies.
Orgies is what they were having. They were actually doing orgies. So can you imagine? We're talking about millions of people and those that have said, hey, it's cool. Remember, he took out 3,000, right? So stop and think about it. So that's something around having orgies. And guess what? You're trying to stay pure. How do you feel your daughter, watch this, you see your daughter, you got to run and tell your daughter, you don't see this. Now watch this. In our today's time, it's bad, but it's not as bad. Can you imagine back then when that woman had to be completely covered up and now she's running around nude? Can you imagine then what was going on? So can you imagine? So God says, go out and kill every last one of them. Why are you going to kill them? First of all, because they have done what? They've disobeyed me. Kill them, every one of them. Secondly, what else could they have produced? Disease. Take it out. Kill it all out. Kill it. You got to kill it, because it can also be disease. Kill it. And you say, but they are just as clean as I was clean. Kill it. Isn't it amazing how contamination can come in any kind of way? Contamination, anytime something's open, contamination comes in and destroys it. And you say, well, I can't see that person not having that. That person says, and I can't see me not having it either, because I didn't do it with, the person I did it with didn't have it. It's contamination. It's something that goes in the air. That, remember, we're living in a polluted world. Remember, we're living in a corrupt world. Sin is here. Watch this. And what is killing the body? What's in the air is what's killing the body little by little, because God created it. So stop and think about it. Death came in. The body is so, I don't know. I think the last time I checked, this gray hair I got on my head is real. But you know what I'm saying? So what he's saying, the body is slowly, Steve, you tell me. But the last thing, stop and think about it. It's coming. We are deteriorating because of what has hit this planet. Is causing us to deteriorate, because at one time this body was designed to live forever. And then what happened? That which, whatever it was that came in, has created contamination. And now the body slowly deteriorates. That's why the older you get, you need to work out more. Why? So that you can hold on as long as you can before it comes to an end. Anyway, guys, my time is zips up, it's out. But